CDL Practice Test, Florida, Air Brake, Part 1. Question number 1. If the low pressure warning light comes on while you are driving, A. You can brake 14 times before the air in the system runs out. B. You should continue to drive normally and check the brake system when it is convenient. C. You should continue driving, but turn the emergency flashes on to warn other motorists. D. Braking will only occur if there is enough air in the tanks. The correct answer is here, D. Braking will only occur if there is enough air in the tanks. Explanation. If the low air pressure warning light turns on, you should stop and safely park your vehicle as soon as possible. Controlled braking will be possible only as long as enough air remains in the tanks. Question number 2. Before you drive a vehicle with a dual air brake system, wait until the pressure in each system reaches at least A. 100 C, B. 120 C, C. 80 C. The correct answer is here, A. 100 C. Explanation. Before you drive a vehicle with a dual air brake system, wait until the air compressor has raised the air pressure to at least 100 C in both the primary and secondary systems. Watch the primary and secondary supply pressure gauges, or needles, if the system has two needles in one gauge. Question number 3. The stoplight switch, A. tells you when the air brake system's air pressure is low. B. tells you when you need to use your emergency brakes. C. turns on the brake lights when you brake. The correct answer is here, C. turns on the brake lights when you brake. Explanation. The stoplight switch is an electric switch triggered by air pressure. When you apply the service brakes, the stoplight switch turns on the brake lights. Question number 4. The braking power of the spring brakes, A. increases when the service brakes are hot. B. depends on whether the service brakes are in proper adjustment. C. is unaffected by the condition of the service brakes. The correct answer is here, B. depends on whether the service brakes are in proper adjustment. Explanation. The braking power of the spring brakes depends on whether the service brakes are in proper adjustment. If they are not, neither the service brakes nor the emergency parking brakes will work properly. Question number 5. If application pressure must be increased to maintain a certain speed while going down a steep grade, then this most likely means what? A. there are other mechanical problems. B. the brakes are out of adjustment. C. there is an air leak. D. the brakes are fading. The correct answer is here, D. the brakes are fading. Explanation. When application pressure must be increased to maintain a consistent speed, it most likely means the brakes are fading. The driver should slow down and use a lower gear. Question number 6. What is removed when an air tank is drained? A. ammonia. B. liquid cleaners. C. water and oil. The correct answer is here, C. Water and oil. Explanation. In an air brake system, air tanks have drains to remove accumulations of water and compressor oil. Allowing water and oil to accumulate in the system could cause damage to the brakes. Question number 7. The modulating control valve allows you to control the A. front brakes, B. amount of pressure in the brake system, C. spring brakes. The correct answer is here, C. spring brakes. Explanation. In some vehicles, the control handle on the dashboard may be used to apply the spring brakes gradually. This is called a modulating valve. It is spring loaded so you have a feel for the braking action. The more you move the control lever, the harder the spring brakes come on. They work this way so you can control the spring brakes if the service brakes fail. When parking a vehicle with a modulating control valve, move the lever as far as it will go and hold it in place with the locking device. Question number 8. How do brakes work on a long, steep downgrade? A. As the main braking mechanism. B. As a supplement to the braking effect of your engine. C. As the main braking mechanism, with the engine braking effect as an emergency backup. D. Not applicable. There is no braking effect involved in a downgrade. The correct answer is here, B. As a supplement to the braking effect of your engine. Explanation. When it comes to driving down long, steep downgrades, the braking effect of your engine is what's most important, and your brakes are only a supplement to being in the proper low gear. They cannot correct your vehicle being in an unsafe high gear without too much pressure on your brakes. Question number 9. Which of the following is a reason that air tanks must be drained? A. You will drive too quickly if they are not. B. Your transmission fluid may drain out. C. Your brakes may fail due to the water freezing. D. Your left side brake will cease to operate. The correct answer is here, C. Your brakes may fail due to the water freezing. Explanation. Your air tanks hold a mixture of water and compressor oil. If left in to collect at the bottom, the water may freeze and cause brake failure. Question number 10. If the brakes are wet, what can be done to dry them out? A. Use the brakes to slow down from a high speed. B. They must be serviced by a mechanic. C. Drain the air storage tanks. D. Use the brakes lightly while driving in a low gear. The correct answer is here, D. Use the brakes lightly while driving in a low gear. Explanation. If the brakes are wet, one should use them while driving in a low gear. This will heat them up and dry them out. Question number 11. Air brakes used to make the brakes work. A. Compressed air. B. Hydraulic fluid. C. Natural gas. The correct answer is here, A. Compressed air. Explanation. Air brakes use compressed air to make the brakes work. Question number 12. To test the static air leakage rate, you should A. Leave the engine running and release the parking brake. B. Charge the air system and leave the engine running. C. Turn off the engine, release the parking brake, and let the system settle. The correct answer is here, C. Turn off the engine, release the parking brake, and let the system settle. Explanation. To test for an air leak, turn off the engine, release the parking brake, i.e., push the parking brake control knob in, and see how fast the air pressure drops. The air pressure should drop less than 2 C in 1 minute for a single vehicle and less than 3 C for a combination vehicle. Question number 13. What device protects the tank and the rest of the air brake system from too much pressure? A. Application pressure gauge. B. Air tank drain. C. Governor. D. Safety valve. The correct answer is here, D. Safety valve. Explanation. The safety valve is set to automatically open at a certain C, typically about 150 C. This is to ensure the tank does not build up too much pressure, which can be dangerous. Question number 14. How should you check that the spring brakes come on when the air pressure in the system drops below a certain level? A. Park on level ground. Wait for normal air pressure. Release the parking brake. Move the truck forward slowly, and apply the brakes firmly using the brake pedal. B. Park on level ground. Chock the wheels. Release the parking brake when you have enough air pressure. Shut the engine off, and repeatedly press and release the brake pedal. C. Park on a slight incline. Drain off air pressure. Set the parking brakes, and check for movement. The correct answer is here, B. Park on level ground. Chock the wheels. Release the parking brake when you have enough air pressure. Shut the engine off, and repeatedly press and release the brake pedal. Explanation. When doing your final check of your air brake, you should cause your vehicle to have low air pressure, to be sure the warning signal comes on, by turning the engine off, with the wheels chocked, and pushing on and off the brakes to release the air pressure. Once you're sure the low pressure warning is viable, continue doing the same until the spring brakes come on automatically, usually between 20-45 C. Question number 15. When using the controlled braking method in an emergency situation, you should A. Apply the brakes with about half of your usual force. B. Apply the brakes so the wheels lock. C. Apply the brakes with minimal pressure. D. Apply the brakes as hard as possible without locking the wheels. The correct answer is here, D. Apply the brakes as hard as possible without locking the wheels. Explanation. The controlled braking method for emergency stops involves applying the brakes as hard as you can, without locking the wheels. Keep steering wheel movement small when braking in this way. Question number 16. The air compressor is an important part of the air brake system. What is the purpose of the air compressor? A. To pump air to the air tank drains. B. To pump air to the hydraulic brakes. C. To pump air into the brake system. D. To pump air into the storage tanks. The correct answer is here, D. To pump air into the storage tanks. Explanation. The air compressor's primary purpose is pumping air into the storage tanks so that it can be used by the air brake system. Question number 17. Your vehicle has a dual air brake system. If a low air pressure warning comes on for just one of the two systems, what should you do? A. Reduce your speed and test the remaining system while you're driving. B. Reduce your speed and drive to the nearest garage for repairs. C. Stop and park safely. Continue only after the system has been fixed. The correct answer is here, C. Stop and park safely. Continue only after the system has been fixed. Explanation. A dual air brake system has two separate air brake systems, each with its own air tanks, hoses, lines, etc. Typically, one system operates the brakes on the rear axle, S, and the other system operates the brakes on the front axle. If one of the systems loses air pressure, causing the low air pressure warning, either the front or the rear brakes won't work properly. As a result, your vehicle's braking distance will increase. If this happens, stop your vehicle and get the system fixed. Question number 18. Which of the following is the most important thing about hard braking? A. Don't lock the wheels for longer than an instant. B. Disconnecting the steering axle brakes will help keep your vehicle in a straight line during emergency braking. C. Never do it without downshifting first. The correct answer is here, A. Don't lock the wheels for longer than an instant. Explanation. When braking hard, don't lock the wheels for longer than an instant, which is done in stab braking. If the wheels stay locked, they will lose the grip of the road and your vehicle may skid or even jackknife. Question number 19. Which vehicles must have low air pressure warning signals? A. Those built after 2005 must have low air pressure warning signals. B. Warning signals are optional. C. Those built after 2010 must have low air pressure warning signals. D. All vehicles with air brakes currently in operation must have low air pressure warning signals. The correct answer is here, D. All vehicles with air brakes currently in operation must have low air pressure warning signals. Explanation. All vehicles on the road that have air brakes must have low air pressure warning signal systems. Question number 20. To use anti-lock brakes properly, you should A. Pump the brake pedal. B. Brake extra hard. C. Brake normally. The correct answer is here, C. Brake normally. Explanation. Anti-lock brakes will automatically keep your wheels from locking so you can brake normally. Question number 21. Under ideal conditions, the average driver of a truck or bus equipped with air brakes and traveling at 55 miles per hour would require what stopping distance? A. 100 to 250 feet. B. 300 to 350 feet. C. More than 400 feet. The correct answer is here, C. More than 400 feet. Explanation. The stopping distance equals the sum of the perception distance, reaction distance, brake lag distance, and braking distance. Under ideal conditions, the average driver of a bus or large truck equipped with air brakes and traveling at 55 miles per hour would require about 451 feet to come to a complete stop. The length of a football field including the two end zones is 360 feet. Question number 22. You are on a steep downgrade and have reached your safe speed of 40 miles per hour. You would apply the service brakes until your speed drops to A. 25 miles per hour, B. 30 miles per hour, C. 35 miles per hour. The correct answer is here, C. 35 miles per hour. Explanation. When driving down a decline, use your brakes to keep you near your safe speed. Press the brakes to slow your vehicle to 5 miles per hour below your safe speed and then release. Repeat as needed once you surpass your safe speed. Question number 23. When you press the brake pedal, A. Compressed air is released from the air tanks, B. Compressed air is released from the brake chambers, C. Compressed air enters the brake chambers. The correct answer is here, C. Compressed air enters the brake chambers. Explanation. Pressing down on the brake pedal lets air into each brake chamber, forcing the brake pads against the inside of the drum, or the rotor for disc brakes. Question number 24. During your final air brake check, if the air pressure does not build up fast enough, A. The alcohol evaporator may be low, B. Have the problem fixed after your trip is over, C. The air pressure may drop too low during driving. The correct answer is here, C. The air pressure may drop too low during driving. Explanation. The manufacturer's specification should state how fast the air pressure should build up once the engine has reached normal operating speed. If the air pressure does not build up fast enough during your final air brake check, the air pressure may not replenish quickly enough during normal braking either. Don't drive the vehicle until the cause has been found and corrected. Question number 25. Truck tractors with their brakes built on or after the 1st of March, 1997 must have A. Bluetooth, B. GPS, C. A rear backup camera, D. An anti-lock braking system, ABS. The correct answer is here, D. An anti-lock braking system, ABS. Explanation. Truck tractors with their brakes built on or after the 1st of March, 1997 must be equipped with anti-lock braking systems, ABS. Question number 26. Pressing on the brakes as hard as you can, releasing when they lock up, then pressing the brakes fully again when the wheels are rolling is called A. Anti-lock braking, B. Impact braking, C. Controlled braking, D. Stab braking. The correct answer is here, D. Stab braking. Explanation. When a person presses as hard as they can on the brakes, releases the brakes when they lock up, then press as hard as they can again on the brakes when the wheels have begun rolling, it is called stab braking. Question number 27. As part of your vehicle inspection test, if your vehicle is equipped with air brakes and has a trailer, you'll inspect the air connections between the truck or tractor and the trailer. Make sure that they are locked in place and free of damage or air leaks. A. Lug nuts. B. Pins, C. Glad hands. The correct answer here, C. Glad hands. Explanation. As part of your vehicle inspection test, if your vehicle is equipped with air brakes and has a trailer, you'll inspect the air connections between the truck or tractor and the trailer. These connections are made with hose couplers, commonly called glad hands because they vaguely resemble shaking hands. These glad hands have rubber seals to form a tight connection and prevent air from escaping. Make sure that the glad hands are locked in place and free of damage or air leaks. Question number 28. You can test the air compressor governor by A. Performing a visual check. B. By increasing and decreasing the air pressure. C. By using the air brakes and monitoring the pressure gauges while traveling less than 40 miles per hour. The correct answer here, B. By increasing and decreasing the air pressure. Explanation. The air compressor governor should cut in when a lower air pressure is reached and cut out when a higher air pressure is reached. Open bracket. Check your manufacturer's specifications for these pressures. To test this, run the engine at a fast idle to raise the air pressure until the air compressor governor cuts out. Then keep stepping on and off the brake pedal to reduce the air pressure until the air compressor governor cuts in.